Life Speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to When Life Speaks. You have tuned in to ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network, and we are glad to have you this evening. There's so much going on, so much happening. This is a season for anniversaries and birthdays and graduation ceremonies, and all manner of things are going on, and people are busy. So the fact that you took time to join us tonight, I'm very glad about that. We have a wonderful guest who's going to be chatting with us in a little bit, and I'm so thankful. You know, sometimes we have interviews and guests that come on that we interview. And then there are people who come on and we just have a chat. We're just able to sit down and talk about some things, and they're comfortable and we're comfortable. And that's the kind of evening that we're going to have tonight. And I am so glad about it. But before we get started, let me tell you some things that are going on. You know, of course, that April 29th, we are counting down the days. April 29th, I'll be doing a reading for His Glory. I'm going to be reading from my latest two books. One is called And It Is So, and the other is called Masters of the Mask. So we're going to be doing that on April the 29th. If you have not reserved a seat, I think we still may have a few left, and you can contact me at speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com, at speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com, and let me know if you still want to come, and we'll see whether or not we still have space available. But I'm going to be reading from those two books. It's going to be fun. And the other date, we've been talking about you saving the date ever since February of this year. But June 10th, we're going to be celebrating 5 years in broadcasting with an event called Make It Count. And that information is going to be out the first part of May. Everything you need to know about the venue, about the ticket sales, about everything. And we're going to make it count. We're going to have a wonderful evening, and we hope that you will be able to join us. Now, let me tell you what's coming up. Let's see. We are going to have, on the 27th, we're trying to get an organization to join us. Let me see who the acting executive director of this organization is, Jennifer Paul, trying to get Jennifer to come on the show on the 27th of this month and talk to us about a nonprofit organization called Families Together. This is one that here local in the Wake County area. You may have a similar organization in whatever state you're living in. And I encourage you, if you do or if you have this type of organization, that you look into it. If you are looking for a place to donate, to put resources, to put time, to put your support, an organization like Families Together is really, really one that you want to get involved in. We think about homelessness a lot, but we don't always think about it in terms of the children that are affected. We see people on the street, but we don't always think about the families and how families are affected when there is no housing for them. And more than ever before, there is that kind of need. So I wanted to tell you about something special that they are doing as part of their spring campaign for fundraising. They're having a triple match program. Triple match program. Go to their website. It's familiestogethernc.org. Familiestogethernc.org. Now, you know you can give to any organization anywhere around the world. So you don't have to think that, gee, I can't support because I'm not in North Carolina. No, you can still help. And the 24th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 4 days, 4 days, 4 very important days, because whatever you give, they will match it triple match program. So if you don't give but $5, you really given 15. If you've given 50, then you've given 150. Wonderful, wonderful way to be able to increase your giving power and help an organization that is really, really, really helping a lot of people. So hopefully, next week we'll be able to have Jennifer on, and she will be able to tell you more about this great organization, and enough so that you can see whether there's something similar in the state that you are living in, and you will be able to support that as well. So let's see. Talked about the 29th of April, told you about Families Together, told you about what's coming up. Good evening, Linda Cooks. Glad to have you in the house this evening. And anybody else who has joined, hadn't had a chance to put a comment up, glad to have you as well. And Alan, if we have any countries come on, feel free to put that in our comments area as well, so we can give them a formal welcome and thank you for coming. Okay, and talked about June the 10th, make it count. Okay, I think I've covered all my bases there. So now it's time for me to talk to you about our guest for this evening. Her name is Wendy Eugene, and she has a wonderful story of strength. And I just can't wait to share her with you so she can share her story with you tonight. But Wendy holds a BS degree in telecommunications from Kent State University. She was a captain in the Army Reserves for 14 years and is a certified peer specialist mental health. Wendy resides in Savannah, Georgia, with her husband of 34 years, Dr. Kenneth Eugene. She has 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren. Wendy is a peer mentor with the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, contracted to Georgia Regional Hospital there in Savannah. When she is not working, she enjoys time with her family, volunteering in her church, which is Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship, loves jazz music and attending theater, especially in New York. I'm right with you there. She is, and I love the way this statement reads, since she is a connoisseur of purses and shoes, and she makes a mean pot of red beans and chili. So after this short break, we're just going to take a break and a breath right now. And when we come back, you will get to meet Wendy Eugene and have her share with you her phenomenal story and her testimony of triumph. I tell you what, I'm glad you're here tonight, because this is something that will inspire you and lift your heart, I tell you. So I'm going to stop talking. We're going to take a breath. And when we come back, you'll get to meet Wendy Eugene. Well, there she is. Hello, Wendy. Hello. How are you tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I am wonderful, and I am so glad that you are here tonight. I was hoping that we would be able to get you to come on When Life Speaks and share your story of strength. We have different segments and stories of strength and testimonies of triumph we have, and the power of one. There are all kinds of different topics and headings that we have. But Wendy, actually, I met her when she was on our show Authors Up, and she is an author, and we're going to talk about her book a little later in the afternoon, but during the interview. But I tell you what, when she was talking about her book, I just kept thinking, sh the folks on When Life Speaks have got to meet this lady because she is a great author and the book is wonderful. But I just felt that there was so much more to your story, and I wanted to hear more about you and more about your maneuvering and getting through what was probably one of the most difficult times and places in your life. And all of us have unexpected, the unexpected. The unexpected is always going to happen. And we have choices that we make when that does occur. You can fight and go on. You can fold and stay in a corner. You can allow it to totally change who you are, or you can find a new you and a new normal and move forward. And that is truly what you have chosen to do. Good evening, Caritha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Ms. Dixon, glad to have you on with us tonight. And Bernice Clark has joined us. Bernice, glad to have you. And also, I think I saw Virgin Islands pop in. If I did, then God bless you out there. Glad to have you tonight and glad to have you with us. We're going to start by doing something very important. And if you are at a place where you can throw some hearts up or whatever it is, a thumbs up or some hands clapping, uh, Wendy has a birthday tomorrow. And
Ah,
we don't celebrate it right now. We're gonna tell you happy birthday, happy birthday to you,
thank
Wendy. If I didn't like you so much, I'd sing. But
ah, thank
since
you.
I do, I'm gonna hold that solo. But
Thank you.
happy birthday to you, and I know that you're going to be celebrated and do some wonderful things and enjoy yourself. Just do something to enjoy yourself. But
Oh,
tonight I want you to tell your story. We always say that everybody has a story. It just depends on whether or not you want to share it. And your story um, is very unique. It's very unique. And I say it is not because of your diagnosis and all, but just the way that you handled it. I think you handled it in a very unique way that I found very inspiring and very uplifting. So I want you to just tell the story. I want you to tell your story. I want to hear a little bit more about Wendy when she was young coming up, because there were some great things that happened with your parents and things. And then I want you to talk about where you were in your life right before your diagnosis and how you shared that diagnosis, because I know I can remember when I had a devastating diagnosis and I knew where I was. To this day I know exactly the spot I was in. I know what it felt like and all of those things. And I think that when we share those things, it helps others to know that they're not alone and they can get through. They can get through. So I'm gonna take a step back and I'm turning the floor over to you, Wendy. I'll ask you some things as we go along. But tell us about you. Tell us about your life and how all of these things transpired.
well, first, thank you, Andrea, for allowing me this platform. I really appreciate it. And good evening to the viewers. Um, you're asking me to go way back, but you
Go
know,
back as far as you want to.
I had I had a a fairly uneventful childhood. I mean, you know, went to school. My parents, did everything that they could for me and my brothers, encouraged us, to strive to go forth and conquer. My grandmother, I've said in my book, I come from a long line of strong African American women who didn't shy away from, standing up and uh, fighting for their rights, and they laid a really good example for me. So I'm a rebel rouser, I admit it, and I believe in, if I see something, I'm gonna say something.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that most of my life, much to my husband's chagrin and my kids' chagrin. But I believe that we have a voice, and we need to use that voice. And that's what, God expects us to do. You know, um, he expects us to, share what we've done. He expects us to, share our faith and be followers of Christ. Um, so that's kind of like what I did. I went to college, um, did what I was supposed to do, tried to keep my nose clean. Uh, you know how that goes. Um, Went into the military. Don't know why, but I did. I think it was, like I say in the book, I wanted an apartment. So, Army ROTC provided that avenue, but what do you do? So I did that, uh, and admittedly, it was a really good experience for me. Really showed me that I could really do a lot if I put my mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gave me some great leadership skills. Showed me, you know, just really to, I don't know, just was a whole eye opener about, your character. And I remember I shared a thing in the book about when I was in ROTC and I had to go um, to basic camp, and I called my dad and I said, I want out. And daddy said, you sign the papers, you gonna finish. And I'm so mad at him. But that's the way I was raised. It's like your word is your bond. If you said you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it. So I did it. And my, it was like I said, it's like, well, I'm gonna show you. And I ended up doing it. And it was like, duh. It really showed me a lot. I married my first husband, which, well, anyway, love at first sight ain't really love at first sight. So
Mm-hmm.
that, is how you, well,
It's
we all
life.
make mistakes. And it's life. What's the name of your show? When Life Speaks.
That's it. That's it.
I spoke, and I had to go on with it. But he blessed me, with two great daughters, and so we moved on. But like I said, life was for me fairly uneventful. I did all the things when I was in college. I did community plays, which I loved doing. Theater was what I wanted to do. I majored in telecom. I wanted to be the next Black Barbara Walters. It didn't work out that way. Um, but even after, the marriage, and, we were both stationed at Fort Gordon, I found some other skills that I had and got involved with Army Community Services and developed some other skills and started volunteering, which my parents, instilled in us that you give back to the community. And, worked with the soldiers on post there, got involved with the volunteers, did their programming, you know, director of the volunteers, and did that. And, I just had a lot of great life experiences. But after the divorce, that's when things got dicey, and I moved back to Akron.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let
So,
me ask you this, Wendy, because there's something that we didn't get into before when you were on the other program. At least I don't think we did. But in your bio, you talked about being a peer mentor. Can
mhm.
you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you got involved with that?
As a peer mentor, um, I got involved with that peer mentoring certified peer specialist um, because I was tired of sitting at home doing nothing. And I again started volunteering
Okay.
uh, with organization Gateway Behavioral Health. A
Hmm.
friend introduced me to it. And peer mentoring is working with individuals with mental illness and addictive disease. I mean, it's throughout wherever you are, but for purposes of what I'm doing, I was volunteering with individuals with mental health, mental illnesses, and addictive disease.
Okay.
And what a peer mentor does is walks alongside those individuals. But one of the stipulations is you must also either be recovering from a mental illness or an addictive disease. And because of my diagnosis early on, um, as with any diagnosis, I went through depression.
Hmm.
And so I'm still being treated for depression
Hmm.
and mental illness. So that's one of the qualifications for being certified because um, the word says, you overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony.
Testimony.
And
That's right.
so that's the premise of being a peer mentor.
Hmm.
Can't help somebody who's hurting if you haven't been there to help them hurt.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I do. I walk beside them. I let them know if I can do it, they can do it. Um, so right now, I am attached to Georgia Regional Hospital in Savannah.
Hmm.
And, my peers are residents of Georgia Regional.
Gotcha.
So through various workshops, various things, catch it, check it, change it, self esteem, helping them to feel better about themselves, give them tools that they need to be able to navigate, once they're discharged from the hospital. So I give them help them get those tools. And then once they're discharged, I'm walking beside them. I'm helping them to get acclimated, helping them find housing, helping them, um, if they want to go to school, helping them navigate that, just to give them assistance and let them know that they're not there by themselves, that
That's wonderful.
somebody with them that's been there, that has recovered from mental illness, and letting them know that they've got support. So
That's wonderful.
that's what a peer mentor does.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I see Terry has joined us. Terry and Ada, thank you for being a part of When Life Speaks tonight, and we're talking with Wendy Eugene. And Wendy, one of the reasons that I wanted you to talk a little bit about, what you had done and the things that you've been involved in, is for us to have a better feel for why the diagnosis may have affected you the way that it did,
Yeah,
and what what it took to get over it and change from where you were. A lot of times when people are ill and they have to be hospitalized, they will ask you, well, what did this person do before, and what did they like, and what kind of music and whatever, so that they can help them to acclimate to the new normal.
right. Well, like I said, I like to dance. I like to listen to music. I like to do community plays. Um, what brought about the diagnosis was I moved back to Akron after the divorce. I got a job at Kent State, my alma mater. I had just gotten involved in a new relationship. And one of our first dates was to play racquetball, which I love to do. And I beat him. He doesn't like to hear me say that, but I did. But while I was playing racquetball, I started getting these tremors in my right hand. And I'm like, this is not normal. But prior to that, even when I was in Clarksville, married my first husband, I was having optic neuritis, which they diagnosed as a sinus infection. But optic neuritis is usually the first sign of multiple sclerosis. But back in the 70s, that wasn't on anybody's radar. At least it wasn't on mine. Um, but because of the tremors in my hand, I said, okay, this isn't cool. I went to the doctor, and that was in 1987. And they had just gotten MRIs up and running. And they ordered an MRI, and that's what said, you have, they gave the diagnosis of MS. And that was a really bitter pill to swallow because I'm like, hold up. African Americans don't get MS. At least that was the thought back then, but unbeknownst to me, that obviously I broke the mold. Not me, but being in Northeast Ohio, I found out later it's the highest incidence of multiple sclerosis.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, that was a hard diagnosis because I'm just like, are you kidding me?
And you said you were in a new relationship.
I was.
Now I know that must have presented you with some challenges of
Well,
how
yeah.
do I tell him? When do I tell him? What do I say to him?
You're right. And I remember my mother was like, why did you tell him? I'm like, hey, I am not going to start off a relationship in a lie. Because if something were to happen and he found out I knew, no, I don't want that. But yeah, it did present some challenges. But it's like he's a physician, and if I say I'm going to get an MRI, it was like he probably knew already. And I didn't think about it at the time when I said, oh yeah, I got to go get an MRI, that I probably was giving him the information anyway.
Right.
Duh me, stupid. But when I did get the diagnosis, I did tell him, and I'm like, hey, you can either stay or you can go. But you got the information, and just, I can't, you can't say I didn't tell you. But we give God our plans, and He laughs.
Yeah.
So here we are, 35 years later.
Wow.
He married me anyway, and that's love. And, we had our two sons, and everybody's grown. I'm a new great grandma. But yeah, I sweated that conversation. I tell you.
Yeah.
Because I went back and forth. But hey.
But what can you do? You devastate. You are diagnosed with something that you're not going to be able to hide.
Right. I do remember the one thing I said when the doctor told me that. And, I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna be okay. And of course, his thing to me was, you need to get rest. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I got 2 kids and a full-time job, and you're telling me I need to get some rest? Come on. But anyway, so yeah. So that's how I got the diagnosis. And it's been like on the cover of the book, a roller coaster.
Yep. Yeah. Now let me ask you this too, Wendy, because you talked about the different stages you went through. I guess just the different phases on that roller coaster ride, where you were angry, you did go into depression, you did have, all of these feelings. And sometimes I think it's like, when I was reading it in the book, it reminded me of like the stages of grief.
It
That
is.
you go through with denial and all of that. Talk to us a little bit about those stages on that roller coaster.
Oh God. Yeah. Um, oh God. Um, it is. It's mourning. It's mourning. I mourned. Oh God. And I still mourn. It
Okay.
it is.
What's
Something
comfortable? I don't want to put you in an
no,
uncomfortable.
no, no.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I just, initially, you get over it. It's just when I think back on some of the things,
Mhm.
um, but every time something would happen, it's like, right, at first I'm angry, I'm like, why? I'm in a new relationship. I've got 2 kids. I'm trying to get on my feet. You know,
Mhm.
well, what am I supposed to do with this? And of course, like I said, the first thing is I'm going to be all right because I got to be all right. I
Right.
do have 2 children, a full-time job. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going
Mhm.
to take care of me? Um, so you deal with anger, then you deal with, God. It's like, okay, God, why'd you do this? But
Mhm.
He didn't do it. And then, right, and I did do denial. I'm like, no, this isn't happening to me. Um, and then, again, there's the depression. I went through that and had to go through counseling for that.
Mhm.
Because then I went through, it's like, well, what am I going to do now that I'm diagnosed? I could end up in a nursing home. What am I going to do? So I did that, the depression. But the morning, I think, was the hardest thing because, I was active. I
Right.
played racquetball. I danced. I did it all.
Mhm.
And I think giving up the plays and the dance and just all of it, every time I fell, giving up my high heel shoes, that was really hard.
Yeah.
I still have a pair. I intend to get back in them. God promised me that I would walk. So
All right.
I'm holding on to that.
All
So
right. All right.
keep my shoes.
That's
Couple
right. You gonna have them when you need them, right?
when I need them. I ain't
Absolutely.
giving them up,
All right.
but but I'm just saying it's though giving up those things was hard.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
hey, my favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption,
Mm.
and the line that Andy said to Red, "You can either get busy living or you can get busy dying."
Diane. Wow. Yes. I remember that. I remember that. Tell me something, Wendy. What's the most, if as you're talking to people now, as you talk to people on the show and you go on other platforms and talk to people, what is the best advice you can give to to help somebody who may be going through MS, they may be going through cancer, it could be some other challenge that they might be facing, but as you look at these stages that you go through, and some of them may pass quicker than others, but what is your best advice for getting past whatever those sets of emotions are? What did you do that kept you saying, what, I've got to go forward, I'm not going to sit here and allow this to overtake me. And then you had something that you described your type of MS diagnosis, which I didn't know that there was but one. uh, but can you share some of that with us?
Yeah. Well, right there's two. Well, there's relapsing remitting MS, and then there's primary progressive. And relapsing remitting MS is what I started with, um, where you have episodes. So I would have an episode of the optic neuritis where I likened it to, when you look at the screen of a TV
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and the sun is shining on your TV and you can see from the top and then the bottom and then you see something in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what optic neuritis looks like.
Okay.
So I would have that, and it would last maybe 6 weeks or so, and then it would go away. And then it might come back and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, it's like, oh, okay, it's back or it's gone. And then it would disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when the hand tremors started. And then, you
Gotcha.
know, the foot dragging started.
Mm-hmm.
Then the loss of writing my hand started. So I went from relaxing, remitting to where I am now in my power chair.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from that to the cane, to the walker, to the power chair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those were the stages that I went through, and then primary progressive is when you get the diagnosis, and then like in no time you're in a wheelchair or bedbound.
Gotcha. Okay.
So those are the two differences. But in terms of what advice I would give people, well, first and foremost, a relationship with Christ.
Mm. Yep.
But family support is important. Um, but don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And that goes along with getting as much information as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with counseling.
You said something about support and how important support is. And I know you were talking about the last time we were together. You were talking about the difficulty that you had in moving from having to have uh, your assistance getting to the point where you needed to be in the power chair, and what you perceived everybody else's thoughts were, as opposed to what their thoughts actually happened to be.
Yeah.
Because your thoughts were, well, I'm going to let you tell what your thoughts were.
Uh, okay. I resisted so long um, having anything to help me. And so, um, when I started with the cane, I'm going to have a, real cool African walking stick. And so I did that. And then when I found the Christian bookstore, it was like, well, that's not cool. And, the actress in me, was like, oh, the bookcase got in my way. Oh, but anyway, but so that was that. But um, the thing with the story that you're speaking of is in the wheelchair was, people come up and say, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You have such a lovely smile." And I would always think to myself, well, would you have said that to me if I wasn't in the wheelchair? Or are you just saying it because you don't know what else to say?
Right.
And then it was like, okay, Wendy, just stop it. You are a beautiful woman. You do have a beautiful smile. Get over it. it's fine, whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
so that's one of the things, and I have to use humor to
Mm-hmm.
get through a lot of what was going on. Because if you don't, you really, I mean, when I
Yeah.
think about all the motor vehicle accidents I've had, if I didn't use humor, I'd never get in a car again.
Mm-hmm.
Perish the thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Well, Caritha Dixon says you are a phenomenal young woman, and she admires your courage, your strength, and your faith. You're strong and intelligent and beautiful. That's what Ada had to say.
they're prejudiced. They're my friend.
Look, however it comes.
No, I get a lot of strength from my friends, so I appreciate them watching. Hi guys, thank you.
And it's wonderful because there are some great, just great things that are said in terms of the endorsements that are in your book, as to how you have managed to maneuver in a strong way, not in a painful way, not in a pitiful way, but really in a strong way. And I think that is admirable, and that is phenomenal. That you have been able to keep going, that you continue to do the work that you do, in spite of, because it can't be easy. It can't be easy. I was talking with someone the other day, and I said, you never really understand um, the emotions that go along with not being able to do what you used to do. And that comes whether it's a diagnosis, whether it is simply the aging process. I had to go through that with my mom, and I go through it now in a sense. Like I said, not with the diagnosis, can't compare it to that, but in getting to the place of thinking, it is really scary to me sometimes, even that they're just things that I used to do ordinarily, that I didn't think about. They're second nature to me, that I cannot do anymore. And it can put you in a really crazy headspace if you don't have the things that you mentioned, which is that relationship with God, which is that support, of friends and family that love you. And just being able to say, you know what, this isn't the end for me. This is not where the book ends. It's not where the book ends. Jamaica says great information. They're watching from Jamaica tonight, so
Thank
we
you.
thank you for that. Now we are coming up. Boy, this time goes by too fast, Wendy.
I
Uh,
know.
but I want you to explain something before we get off this line, and it is about your book. And your book is called "Who's Having More Fun Than Me?" Who's
Yeah,
having more fun than me? And I can't let you get away without explaining that title to the people. So tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, that's a funny story too. Um, when I first got my diagnosis, I my older, well, I'm the oldest, but the older of my two brothers, Todd, um, he lives in New York with my other brother. They both live in New York, and I would call Todd periodically, or he would call and he would just say, "Hey, what's going on? Just checking in on you." And I'd tell him one of my stories, I fell in the bookstore. Oh, I ran into a building, made a new door in the building. Oh, I had another accident, and he would just, and I could see him, on the other end of the line shaking his head, and he would finally say, "I don't know anybody who's having more fun than you." And as it went on, and people kept saying, "You should write a book, you should write a book." And I would say, "I am not an author, I'm not an author, I'm not an author." And then I started writing things down, and you know it's set in the drawer from '05 until you know just last year on my birthday when I signed my contract. Yay. Um, and prophesied, and pastor prophesied in December that I would write a book and people would come across my path and help me get it out. And they did, and I did. And so it was evident the title of the book would be Who's Having More Fun Than Me?
Well, I tell you, it's not only a great title, it is a great book. And your story is a wonderful story. And I am so grateful and honored that you would come on When Life Speaks and that you would share with us tonight. And with all things, it is apparent that there are still painful places when we go back and when we recount some of the things that we have been through. But the fact that you're willing to do that and willing to do that through a great reader, one of your friends said the book is a great read, and it really, really is. And I do encourage anybody out there to really be able to get the book and be able to read the full story that you give us and that you share in that publication. Now they can get it from Amazon, right?
You can get it from Amazon. Here's a copy.
There you go. There you go.
From Amazon. But again, I appreciate you having me on the show. I really enjoyed speaking with you and the audience. But again, I would not have been able to do any of this if it were not for God and
Amen.
my family and my life and my friends who, have supported me and encouraged me. People still ask me, "Are you writing another book?" It's like, well, I have some ideas. I'm writing some things down, so we'll see. But right now, I just want to keep encouraging people, and I just want people to know that you're not by yourself.
Amen. Amen.
Keep moving, one in
Wonderful.
front of the other.
Wonderful. Wendy, how can they get in touch with you? Is there a way that they can get in touch with you? You have a website or
Yes, I
anything?
have a website. It's authorwendyeugene.com. And my email is wrbeug126@gmail.com.
Gmail.com. And I tell you, if you all forget any of that information, hit me up at speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com, and I will be sure that you get it and that you get the information that you need and want so that you can get in touch with this lovely lady and be able to ask her questions or whatever it is that you need to talk with her about. Wendy, it has been my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure
Thank
to have you on When Life Speaks tonight. I have so enjoyed it, and I really just I just admire what you have done with what your unexpected happened to be. Because you're definitely an inspiration to many of us. And thank you so much. That is it for us for tonight. Wendy has given us some wonderful things to think about. We will re-air this broadcast. We will have a replay of this broadcast on Saturday, right here on ALH Broadcasting at noon. We do a replay at noon. So if you have friends, family, whatever that didn't get to hear Wendy live tonight, they can hear her on the replay on Saturday right here on ALH Broadcasting. That is it for us for the evening. I tell you what, we have got some tools, we've got some tips, and we've got a way to be able to make it through so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good night, everybody. Wendy, thank you, and good night to you
you.
as well.
Good night.